Okay, so how do you get started? How do you overcome the blank canvas problem? You've heard me talk about the four components of automation. Those are triggers, actions, conditions, and timing. But you don't necessarily know what a trigger is, a good trigger, or what an action is. You aren't sure what apps Zapier supports. So you're left wondering, what can I do? There's too much to understand. And so the first thing that you need to do is understand your work. This is why my documentation exercise is so important. Because if you don't know what to do, or if you don't know what you do, then you just stare at a blank canvas. It's like if you've been tasked to write a paper and you're not given a topic or any other parameters. You're just like, what am I going to write? There's so many things I can write about. Or maybe a better example is this. Tell me a funny story. Tell me a story from college. Tell me something funny that happened to you when you were younger. Most people will freeze when they get that question because they don't have something holstered. They don't have something ready to be like, oh, here's a hilarious story. So they freeze and they can't think of anything. This has happened to me countless times. My oldest daughter has been asking my wife and me, hey, tell me a funny story about mom from when you guys were dating. Or, hey, tell me a funny story about dad from when you first met him. There's so many funny stories. I was an idiot when I was younger. I still kind of am. So it's not that we don't have anything. Just like it's not that you don't have anything to automate. It's that there are so many options you don't know what to do. So my recommendation first is document. Pick a process or a task or a workflow that you do. It could be writing your newsletter, recording a podcast episode, making a YouTube video, following up with people who fill out your intake form, building your next product or service. Write everything you have to do down. And then you have a list of potential tasks, a list of potential things that you can maybe hand off to Zapier, right? The obvious example is booking guests, right? Which you actually don't need to hand off to Zapier, right? You can just use cal.com or Calendly for that. But another example might be, well, okay, for my newsletter or for my podcasts, I need to capture ideas. And sometimes I like to bookmark stories or links for episodes. What if when you bookmarked a story, it got sent to your planning document or created a planning document for you? That's a trigger and an action. That is something you can do in Zapier. But it goes beyond that. After you make the list of things that you need to do, write down the apps you use to accomplish those tasks, because that is the crucial part. Knowing what apps you use is the key to understanding how you can use Zapier. And we'll get into exactly how you can use Zapier right after this. I'm so excited to tell you this episode is brought to you by Stellar Sites. Stellar Sites and Liquid Web have been great supporters of this show from the beginning. And now they've made it even easier for busy business owners to create our perfect websites. Most SaaS services leave you boxed in with artificial limits and locked in to using them. But completely DIY platforms can be overwhelming and time-consuming. It's not what business owners like us should be worrying about. Well, consider Stellar Sites the perfect Goldilocks solution. It uses WordPress, a completely open and customizable CMS, on their pre-configured guided platform. That gives you a head start, not a blank slate. The solution that I recommend from Stellar Sites the most is the Learning Package. Most online course platforms are bloated and overpriced and inflexible. But the learning package on Stellar Sites gives you everything you need to sell and manage online courses and memberships without going broke first. Plus, it's based on WordPress, so you can start simple, and when you're ready, build the perfect experience without having to migrate or move. Stellar Sites delivers on one of the earliest promises of WordPress: to build powerful sites without needing to know code. If you're ready to build your perfect site without breaking the bank or fighting the platform, Stellar Sites is for you. Head over to streamlined.fm/stellar to learn more. Okay, we're back. What's the key to using Zapier? You have a list of tasks. You have a list of apps. Before you open the Zapier editor or start typing into Zapier's Copilot, the thing you want to do, I want you to do this. Go to zapier.com/apps. Zapier.com/apps. This is the Zapier Explore Apps page. And this gives you everything you need to understand what Zapier can do for you. In the beginning of the show, in the cold open, I talked about a restaurant, except you need to build a menu with no other parameters. This is like saying we want to be a Mexican food restaurant or we want to serve sushi. Now you're working within some box. The Zapier Explore Apps page allows you to search for the apps you use. So you can type in Feedly if you use Feedly for RSS, or Instapaper if you use Instapaper for bookmarking. You can search for Calendly or cal.com. You can search for Kit. Any of the apps that you use, search and see if they're available in Zapier. But it goes many steps really further than that. Once you pick an app, it will give you a few things. It will give you apps that you can pair with, apps that are commonly paired with the one you just selected. It'll give you automation ideas. So it'll say, if you pick Gmail, for example, it'll say, hey, save new Gmail emails matching a search to Google Sheets. Or when you label or star an email, send a Slack message about it. So it'll start to give you ideas based on the apps that you use. And then further down on the page, it has a list of supported triggers and actions. So you can actually see the triggers that kick off the automation. You can see the actions that will be a result of the automation. So now you can see what's possible. You can see what you can do. But I love when you choose an app to pair it with, it will allow you to select a trigger and an action. It'll suggest specific automations for those app pairings, and you can reverse them, right? So if we're saying, let's say Google Sheets and Trello. If we have Google Sheets as the trigger and Trello as the action, we can reverse them and we can see what's possible with Trello as the trigger and Google Sheets as the action. So those three components, or those three things you need to do to prevent blank canvas syndrome and get started with Zapier. Make a list of the stuff that you do, the tasks that you perform on your computer. Then make a list of the apps you use to accomplish those tasks. Then head over to zapier.com/apps and search for one of those apps to see what Zapier can do with that app. Look at the triggers and look at the actions. And as I said in the beginning of the show, if you're still thinking, well, I still don't know, you want to see, right? You want to see examples of real world automations. You don't want to talk in academics. Head on over to streamlined.fm/quiz, because over at streamlined.fm/quiz, I will ask you a few questions. And when you submit, I will email you 4 automations based on what you're struggling with. And even if you're not using the apps I'm suggesting, you're seeing the type of work that's being automated. So seeing that paired with the Zapier apps page could be a really great way for you to figure out what you can automate. But that's it for this episode of the Streamlined Solopreneur. It's a short one, but a really focused one. I do have a video where I walk through the Zapier Explore apps page, so I'll link that in the show notes as well. You can find all of the show notes over at streamlined.fm or in whatever player you're listening to this episode on. If you have any feedback, you can head over to streamlinedfeedback.com. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, I hope you find some space in your week.